Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
A warm welcome, listeners of the Software People Stories podcast, to the third episode in the series commemorating Women's Day. In this episode, Shivaguru is in conversation with Manju and Rajiv Kuchhal, talking about their experiences in IT, challenges for women getting back to work after a break, how social constructs affect behavior, reflections of women at work, particularly in the social sector, and as always, a message for folks wanting to consider a career in IT.
Welcome to the Software People Stories, Manju and Rajiv. I'm happy to have you both.
Thank you, Shiv.
And as I was saying, this year we wanted to get the perspectives of both sides, that is, the women as well as men, from couples who have been associated with IT and what you've gone through. So we usually start the conversation with a self-introduction with the origin story. So Manju, if you can go first as to what got you into IT or what you've been doing in IT, and then we'll have Rajiv also share his story, and then we'll take it from there.
I made a career choice. I was from a background of mathematics and studied mathematics. And then I moved on to do my master's in computer application. And then the obvious choice was to get into the sector, the IT sector. And it was booming at the time when I joined the sector. It sounded like a good career option. I thought it gelled with my nature of being sitting quietly in one corner and working. So that kind of prompted me to choose also to look at this as a career option. So that was how my journey started into the sector. I joined TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, and worked there for about 8 years. So, and then I took a break because my kids were born and I wanted to spend more time with them. And then I joined the social sector, and last almost 12 years I've been part of the social sector. But I was lucky because in the social sector, I'm still working into what was my education. So I'm still part of the IT enablement for the NGOs.
Very nice, Manju. Thanks. What about you, Rajiv?
Yes, I think my going into IT was more of an accident rather than a planned operation. When I graduated in '86, IT was not a big deal. Software was still very early days. And it just so happened that the job I got, they said, why don't you go to computer department and see if they have something. I went there and then they asked me if I know COBOL. I said, no. They said, do you know Pascal? I said, yeah, I can manage Pascal. And they put me in this message switching project. So that's how my IT and Telecom specifically happened. Similarly, my joining of Infosys in 1990 was an accident. In some sense, unplanned operation. I was looking for a job. I got a call from this unknown company. They were asking me to come to Bangalore and they were giving a free ticket. So I said, why not? So I came to Bangalore to give interview. Quite liked the company and I joined them. So I worked there. It was a nice journey. I worked across various groups for about 18 years. And then about 13 years back, I kind of dropped out of the corporate world. And since then, I have been working, one is in the startup world, and second is in the social sector space.
Very nice. Very different sectors. But then I guess the social sector has been always a lot more aware of rights and equality and trying to create opportunities. So coming from IT, Manju, since we are looking at how to make the environment more amenable for women, because they have to balance a lot of responsibilities. So when you took a break and when you entered the social sector, what were the learnings from corporate that helped you in shaping your team or your plans here?
Very interesting, actually, Shivguru, because when I was working, I was really looking for a more flexible environment, and but I couldn't get it. So for a part-time or for a work from home would have really made me, because I am inherently a working woman. My nature is a working woman nature. So, but I didn't get those options. So no regrets, but when I joined the social sector, most of my team, we have tried to make it a women team, and we are also trying to see if we can get women who had to do a mid-career drop out of the career. Also, the main focus is to give that environment where we understand that as a woman you have a lot of responsibilities, and but that does not that should not stop you from working. So in our team we don't say that okay, these many you have to be in the office or these many hours. It is all flexible as long as the delivery is done on time. So we want to keep it professional, but at the same time you are on your own and you take your own responsibility of work you are assigned. And so far it has worked very well for us. So I think the corporate sector really should look at from that perspective. And many women wouldn't need to drop out then.
Good segue to ask Rajiv, since you mentor a lot of startups, how do you think startups can encourage more women not only to enter the sector, but also stay connected and stay productively connected?
Yes, I think there are multiple places. One is that I think one of the inherent advantage of startups, especially in the tech sector, and especially after COVID, is that the whole working from anywhere. So I think if they encourage and bring more women on board who can work from home, which is what they need, I think it's clearly a very, very strong area. But I think more importantly, what happens in the startup world, there are many skills for which they need a experienced person, but not full time. And there, I think it becomes very useful for them to tap the women who may not want to come full time into the career, so to speak. So if they are into full time into career, again, like the startup advantage is that deliverables are very clear, unlike large companies who put the rules because it's very hard to define, very hard to track and manage. Startups is very easy. So they can be very flexible. But at the same time, the nature of the startup is that the pressure is very high. You have to really be slogging it during the period when, some delivery has to be done. The cycle times are very short. People here, when you say it will take a month, their jaws fall to the floor. How can it take a month? So, it's a very, very different cycle times which are there. But there are many places in which they can be very useful in terms of giving flexibility. But I think very importantly in being able to tap specialized skills, which they don't need full time. Whether it's as an architect, whether it's a marketing person, whether it is running a campaign for you, sales campaign for you, or building certain things which go as part of productization, but may not be part of the code. Some of those things can be easily, they can be brought in case the women is not able to go full time and being able to take that pressure along with the family.
Two related questions. See, one thing which I'm also hearing from a lot of people is this, while work from home gives some flexibility in terms of, say, at least reducing the commute and being located wherever you are most comfortable, the distractions at home, as well as the competing demands on your time. Think suddenly maybe the kid needs something, or there is now with online classes, maybe something doesn't work, or there may be those kinds of interruptions. So how can you kind of stay focused? The related thing is, while yes, there are a lot of roles that can be part-time, but ultimately, if software is a team sport, there must be times when at least everybody is available to connect. But in a startup, when there are a lot of things that are moving, how can we make this easier? Because sometimes I've also noticed that some women say that, even in my team, one of them says that let us have a call early in the morning before the kids get up, or before they get ready to school and all that. Whereas some others prefer late in the afternoon. So to adjust, first, there is a need for understanding. So how do you create that understanding, particularly when you're not face to face and you're only either a Zoom, or nowadays people don't even turn on the videos?
I think to be a blended model, Shiv, where there should be an option to, and blended and flexible model, where you have an option to go to office, you connect once or twice a week or something, and then rest of the time when you require to be at home, you work from home. But in terms of, I think COVID is a very different times. So because we don't expect the kids to be around. They are supposed to be in school for so many hours, and that's when women would choose to work if they are working part-time. Or if they were to be on full time, they would have a support system at home. COVID just broke that support system. We didn't have a support system at home because no helps, no this thing. And so I think that is a very different times. Otherwise, they need to have, when they're working, they need to have somebody to taking care of the children if they're around. If they're very small children, they need to have somebody. I think we can't go by just the COVID times. And they have to be available for calls or whatever. So I think they have to put a system in place if they want to be working.
Yes, I think, Shivu, this is a place where, if you go to the West, and you have also worked there, I mean, you ask for a meeting, and women and sometimes men also are taking care of kids. They very bluntly say, no, I have to take my daughter for tennis, so I can't have a call during this time. So can we do before or after that?
Yeah.
They're very unapologetic about it. I think here we tend to get a little apologetic and unadjusting. So one, I agree that I think the model which will evolve is the one of flexibility. So right now, work from home has become a mandate, not really a flexibility. So once it converts to that, you can also work from home, you can also work from office. Then you have to have team bonding. I mean, nothing can replace face-to-face bonding with spending that time. And people need that. I mean, you also need to be out of home, otherwise it becomes a prison.
Yeah.
So I think that flexibility will happen. I completely agree with Manju that it's not that kids will be at home all the time. School. So people will start getting the helps at home, which a lot of them were not, and some are still not. But I think the more important part is that as a society, as a workforce, we have to be very clear about it. That at this time this happens. So this is one of the considerations. Synchronizing calendars is always a challenge, right? And any corporate will tell you. And this is one of the reasons for calendars to be synchronized. So it has to be done. And I'm not even coming to the point where that men also need to take responsibility. This can't be just a women's role. I'm saying that aside, this has to be a part which everyone has to understand.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. When you say men have to take responsibility, how can men understand how best they can support?
My take is I don't think Indian men are very averse to it. A lot of times they don't do it because as a society, it's unacceptable in some sense. So for women to say that I am dropping out of work because I will take care of kids is acceptable. It's not acceptable for a man to say that. I mean, I know of only one case, and I'm sure there will be more, where I know the husband dropped out because wife's career was doing very well.
Oh.
I will take a 3-year break or 4-year break and take care of kids and then go back to work.
Okay.
I know of only one case. I mean, very well because that woman, she used to work with me, and only when she got a new role, which meant her move traveling.
Okay.
And said, you go ahead and do it. And this is a very good opportunity, and my career is not going anywhere. But I see it very rarely happening. I remember I was aghast when I heard about it. I mean, I was impressed, but it was a shock. Maybe a pleasant shock, but it was still a shock. So it's not a norm. This happens. This is the right thing to do. So I think a lot of those social norms is what inhibits a lot of people.
So Shiv, I think there has to be what he's saying is it's a very different level. But what I'm saying is at the core level, at the basic level, the mindset has to change where even when the girls are raised, they are supposed to they are always taught that you are the primary caretaker of the family. I feel that there it has to change and say that equally it's equal responsibility. So even when the men help at home, they do it as if it's a favor to the women. That I think that has to change where it has to be both people's job to take care of the kids. And then how you manage it obviously has to be balanced. But it's still seen as a primarily women's responsibility to take care of the family. So that has to change. And women also have to be taught that it is not just your responsibility. That's when it will change.
I think it will take few generations.
Yeah.
Because what I noticed, there's always a question of role model. You don't see your parents, you see your parents doing one way, you grow up doing that. I do see a lot of changes around that. I mean, my father, I think, did little more than my grandfather did. We do little more than what our parents did. I think our kids will do more than what we did. So I think it will take a few generations. It's become a lot more acceptable, but I think it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, some of these things definitely is not just one family or one organization changing. So, in coming back to the startup world, Rajiv, you are associated both in the under pressure commercial startups as well as the social sector. Do you see any differences in terms of, say, getting more women? Social sector does have many more women who are volunteers or who are field workers and all that.
Yeah.
And for them, probably it is even more complex because many of them operate in very rural areas where they don't have access to, say, technology support or even the social norms which are there in cities. So, do you see any differences in those?
Yes and no. I think women in social sector is a very the fact that they by nature are more compassionate, more they get more emotionally touched will be is the reason why you will always see more women in the sector. But I think if you go to the outside the city, on one hand, you will find that yes, they may not be very aware, but they're a lot more street smart. And it varies from region to region. So I won't make a very sweeping statement here. But what happens is that the challenges the women have to face in, I will say, anything beyond middle class, right? I mean, it could be true with urban slums also or lower middle class, are far more. So, their grittiness comes across much, much more stronger. So, than you will find in the cities. But beyond that, we have seen, women having a lot of ambition, women wanting the best for their children. In fact, one of the places, one of the organizations I'm involved with is in rural education. And they are a kind of for profit, but a social enterprise. And it is the women who is the primary driver behind getting the child enrolled there.
Okay.
And whenever the parent meeting happens, the mother is so this thing about how my child is doing. They're almost like very aggressive with the teacher. Why is my child not doing this? Why is my child not doing that? So I think that aspiration is very high. So yeah, there are similarities, there are differences, but I won't explode all of them. That it probably applies for men also. But they're a lot more street smart.
So have any of your own worldviews changed after you saw Manju go through the break that she took and then raising kids and then getting back into active career?
So, the thing is that for me, I was seeing all this happening in the corporate life also. And getting women back to work, which the society still has. I think the percentage of women just dropping out and not coming back is still extremely, extremely high. So, we tried with some of the people I used to work with, we encouraged them to start, and they did start an initiative which was around getting the women back to work. But it's a little uphill battle. Still, many companies, I think, still give a little more than lip service. They will do something. So they used to get their maximum business around Women's Day. So they will get that spot, and then it will all fizzle out. So I don't know if there is a concerted effort, and because it's not just one thing, a lot of things needs to change for that to happen. So in many senses, it was fortunate that Manju could land up with this, and it was a very smooth transition into this. But many are not able to transit, that smoothly, or are able to find something is able to give them that balance and the elbow room that they need. So, I mean, if I was working in a corporate world, I don't know. I'm sure I would have taken a lot more initiative in making that happen. But clearly, I think in any of the enterprises we work with, if this is a case, we are obviously a lot more aware and see how it can be done. But it does remain a huge, huge challenge.
Yeah, I think it's not a norm. It's still an exception. I was really lucky to get into something which has worked for me.
So what do you think, Manju, can be done to increase both the awareness as well as confidence in women who take a break to come back?
So come back after the break.
Yeah, after the break. And is it a hesitation, or when you got back, was it more of a push from Rajiv saying, why don't you get back to your career? Or was it that you wanted to do it? Or if someone is hesitant, what can be done to both let them know that there are opportunities even after you take a break, and then also they're feeling confident? Because I know one of the large companies here has been having reskilling programs or upskilling programs. So particularly for women who had a break, saying now you come enroll for a few months, then you feel confident to learn the new technologies or new methodologies, whatever you need to, and then put them into appropriate roles.
That's the creating opportunities and showing that you are sympathetic to, that you understand that there was a break and you will require to do reskilling. Because I think TCS drove, I've had a drive like that sometime back. And I thought it was such a nice thing to do that we understand that you have skills. And we understand that because you were on break, we don't look down upon that. And we say that, okay, this is a requirement. This is a family's needs. And so you took a break. And we are there with you for reskilling and then take on from. So that if I see it as if all this being happening for women, I think that will prompt me to go back into the sector. And for me, I think I told you that inherently I feel I'm a working woman. So I couldn't not do it. So I had to. I mean, but it's very. I was very lucky to land up with that opportunity. If not, that I don't know whether I would have gone back or not.
Yeah, so that is the complement of the question. While organizations can do all these things to encourage, to invite and make it more amenable for women to work, how do you create that desire to get back to work in women who have taken a break? Have you noticed, or do you know anyone who kind of become complacent, saying, yeah, now it is okay, it's okay, I'm happy with not working?
That's okay, no? That's their choice. If they've made that conscious choice and they're happy with it, so be it.
Yeah, even.
I think, I mean, that way I also dropped out of corporate world and I'm happy with it. I mean, it's not somebody wants that choice. I think it's fine. I think the issue is that when women wants to go back to work, then how does that happen? And I think the question is at what stage it happens. So does it happen after 6 months break, 1 year break, 3 years break, 10 years break? When does it happen? So my first thing will be that don't take such a long break. If you take a very long break, the longer break you take, the longer it will take you to get back because your own confidence level will be so low. So if you are very clear that, or even if you are half clear, then I will say start something which is after 3-4 years, but a lot of ecosystem has to come up to support that. But I will say that just don't give it a too long a break.
But a lot of Shivguru, one other thing is that I see my friends who have taken a back seat or a break and they're really, really good with their work. And there it kind of, I think this friendship, I mean, there I actually encourage them that you are really good, you should not, even if it's for kids, I agree that they're important, but don't take such a back seat. Like at least keep being in touch with whatever whatever is your work, and then get back to in full steam. But I think the drive to get back has to come from within.
Okay.
I don't think, that drive somebody can, because it's a personal choice. You may be comfortable not working, and that's fine actually.
I usually like to ask some tips towards the end of the conversation for people who are either considering a career in IT, in this case, particularly women, whether they are starting out or say after a break, as well as mid-career who go through this doubt of, is there anything more or is it going to be just more of the same? What else can we do? You see a lot of people, at least in IT, in Bangalore particularly, now wanting to start up, wanting to do something on their own, maybe continuing. So do you have any advice for such women?
One thing that worked well was that I was part of, though it didn't help me personally, but there was a group which was started by women, and there they would meet up and kind of help each other with, and they will do the posting. That okay, this is the option which is available, this is the post which is available, and we all understand that this is people who have dropped out or they want to do part-time work or something. So such support groups would really help, where women could join back and some hand-holding is done, and that brings the confidence back that they can, and then opportunities are provided where then they can join back. So I think these support groups would really work. And like Rajiv said, I think don't take a long break if keep on doing something. Don't take a complete break if you want to go back.
Okay.
Anything you have?
No.
So one question, Rajiv, is the pace at which new technologies are getting introduced, and particularly AI-inspired or AI-dependent technologies, which people fear may take away jobs. And if somebody has been away for a little while, how would you suggest that they can get back up to speed? Would it be better to look at a large corporate entity, or would startups be an option?
If first is I think the technology is, yes, I mean, a lot of this happens. It doesn't change one that fast. What may change is that you may need to know some knowledge, but if you have done something 2-3 years back, 4 years back, you can always find a market for that. But I will suggest that if you're thinking that nowadays there are a lot of online courses available. So I think just go and attend one of the courses. It will give you the confidence. It will get you back into the schedule, into the rhythm, and it will give you a certificate which could be useful in many places. So, in case you want to pick up a new area, for example, data sciences or data analytics, and you have been out for last 3 years, 4 years, and you hear this happening, so you can always go and do that. The large company, small company decision is based on, I will say, some other factors. You see, the small company, what will happen is they have no time to train, so they will look for ready-made skills. Large company is normally a little more flexible in that sense, but it's a little more harder to go back unless you're going back to your old job and that company is ready to take you back. So my suggestion will be, just if you are thinking there's an area you want to go into, or you, like Manju said, there are groups available, you can look at what jobs are available. You have to network. I think one of the things women are very, very poor at are networking. Men, I think, just network a lot more than women do. So they need to network, find out what's there, and maybe just pick up, one of the courses.
So what about starting up?
Starting their own?
After a break.
Having your own startup?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
I guess the network is needed there as well. And
you anyway cannot do a startup unless you are networked. Even if you want to, I mean, it may sound a little sexist remark, but even there are some women like in our complex nearby who are very good at cooking and they want to sell what they're cooking. Even for that, they have to build a network. So, but building a network is easier nowadays than it was earlier. So you can reach out through online network, you can reach out to, much easier to stay in touch with people than it was earlier, whether it is LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is. So it's not as complex. You don't have to step out and meet somewhere. You can just do it from anywhere. So, but yeah, you can't run a startup unless you network.
The demand for startup may be very high, like Rajiv was saying, the pressure to do is very high. So probably working with somebody else, a team would be good, like another person or two people. And then they work together, make it more viable.
Yeah, but in any case, we don't recommend that anybody does a startup by themselves. Anyway, for anyone, we say have at least 2 or 3 people as a team. Don't have a single person startup. So that applies here also. So that you have to have a team to do a startup. But if you are up to it, then absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I find women who do the startup, so they are, in any case, as a startup, you need that significant multitasking. They are actually able to do a better job.
On that positive note, that women have a lot of options even if they take a break, and that increasingly there is more awareness. While it may take generations, I think at least current generation is definitely a lot more receptive and supportive. Hope that a lot more women now take, of course, on their own will, decide to come back and they will find opportunities. Thanks a lot, Manju and Rajiv.
Thank you, Shiv.
Thanks, Shiv.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Malavika for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
please subscribe on your favorite podcast client
and spread the word in your network.
If you'd like to share your story,
contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.